Hi, YouTuber. I didn't see you there. Who is Kurt Roberts? Well, Kurt Roberts is the character in my upcoming book series called Phantom Lock. He's he's a psychic, not in the sense that he can predict the future or read people's minds. He he can touch an object and turn the residual energy, which residual energy is energy left over from a traumatic event. And so it's like, let's say he touches a coffee mug that's been exposed to like a really violent murder, and he can turn that energy into images in his head, and he can see flashes of the past essentially. So he uses this gift and works with the Chicago Police Department to investigate paranormal cases, and he has caught just regular serial killers too. Uh, and I came up with the idea for this character, Kurt, probably a good 2 years ago. Probably about 2 years ago, I watched this fantastic show called Millennium. Is created by Chris Carter, the creator of X Files and the short-lived Lone Gunman series. I would highly recommend Millennium. It was way before its time. I mean, we've got all these great dark and gritty detective shows now, and obviously Millennium was kind of a precursor to that. I mean, we've got the following, Hannibal. I'm sure there's others that I'm forgetting, but yeah, there's a lot. And it's like, yeah, Millennium is kind of like, it's a mix of Silence of the Lambs and Seven. And the Frank Black character played by Lance Henriksen really stuck with me because he wasn't this super uber badass cop. He was this very in depth character that had flaws, and he was older too. He wasn't Channing Tatum, and I was like, I kind of wanted to write a character like that. At the time, I thought about writing books, and I had done contests and stuff, but I wasn't sure about it. But I think Millennium was what really pushed me towards it, and so I came up with this idea for this character named Kurt Roberts, and you know, there are shreds, threads of Millennium throughout this first book. Maybe not so much this first book, but definitely through the short stories that I've written about Kurt that I still have not published yet. But to that, I always tell people, Clive Barker's work has a lot of um, sort of an H.P. Lovecraft feel to it, but yet he's got his own style. It's not like he's ripping off. I mean, everybody's got inspiration. Even H.P. Lovecraft took inspiration from probably most likely Greek mythology, Norse mythology, but I mean, with so many years of fiction, mythology, and all sorts of authors, it's hard to come up with something that's 100% original. All you can do is sort of come up with this thing that's your own by being inspired by somebody else. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, just look at how many books Mary Shelley's Frankenstein has inspired, and I think she would be proud of that. But anyway, getting back on track as to who Kurt is, I actually, because I'm an author and I like to make lists, I made a whole character profile about him. Kurt is 53 years old. He's got short brown hair with touches of gray. His eyes are blue, just like mine. His height, he's exactly 6 foot, and I'm 5'11", so he's obviously taller than I am. He's sort of average build, kind of slim. He he is married. Shortly after I kind of came up with the idea for this guy, I wanted him to have sort of this other character that was kind of his better and stronger half, and that was through Delia, and Delia is also a psychic in her own right, except she can project her soul into different dimensions and planes of existence. And excuse me. And basically, what that is she can her her soul leaves her body and goes into limbo, where she can talk to ghosts and demons and other really nasty spirits. And she's she's a very strong-willed person. She's very sweet. When she met Kurt, Kurt was very broken. I mean, his gift had torn him apart because he had almost no control over it. And then, I mean, you get these violent images of the past, and you have no say as to when it assaults your mind. It's just that really tore him apart early on in life, and she found him during his almost breaking point, and kind of helped him develop this gift. And they eventually fell in love and got married. And the book series doesn't really start during that time. All that stuff probably took place a good 20 or 30 years before Famlock the Lost happened. And I thought that would be kind of fun to write. I didn't want to do like an origin story. I wanted to do a character that had sort of been in his world for a little while. And I thought it'd be interesting to sort of build him and not have his ultimate loss and failure be completely apparent at first. I mean, it's really it's obvious that he's had a great tragedy in his life, and what has happened is that he, a year before Phantom Lost, he goes on an investigation with his wife, and it's a sort of exorcism of this child that has been possessed by this really, really nasty demon. And Delia decides to use her ability to try to drive the demon out, to draw him back into another plane of existence. And she's successful, but unfortunately, her soul is also dragged into some other part of the universe, part of limbo that Kirk can never really reach physically. And although she doesn't die, she's just, her soul is just lost somewhere, leaving her body basically in a coma. It's still alive. It just it just has no soul. I mean, it doesn't talk. It doesn't. It can still eat, but it's basically a shell. And Famlock the Lost takes place about a year after all that's happened. So he's kind of taking care of her, and he decides that he's ready to go back to investigating, even though it's without her, because he feels like that's the best way to honor her. And maybe if by luck he can find something that knows how to get her back. And I think really the book is sort of about him trying to get back on the horse, because he's not only because of age, but because of this incredible thing that has happened to him during to this person that he loves. He's struggling with that. So while he's investigating it, he just really wrestles with all of that. And that was it was really a powerful thing for me to write about. And I don't know if it makes me twisted to say that it was fun. Uh, let's say it was really rewarding, because it felt good when I go back and I read it, and it's like, yeah, there's little things that I have to edit and rearrange, but it's obvious that I know the character inside and out. And I didn't always. It's like I was kind of struggling with him for the first year, maybe almost a year and a half. I told my girlfriend at the time, I was like, Caitlin, I can't really reach Kurt. I mean, it's like, I feel like I've got a decent grasp on him, but there's something missing. There's something that's not right. And it's like I could feel it, but I just didn't know exactly what it was. And she was kind enough to read some of the short stories I had written about him, and she's like, okay, this character is really good, and he is so much like you. He's this um, he's this more. Uh, so I'm trying to recall the way she put it, but she said as Alex Kurt is basically you if you were burdened with this terrible gift, and if you didn't have all these people around you that loved you. And I was like, that's it right there. I mean, Kurt is basically an older version of me that has never had a great support system or a great family. He's always been kind of this guy that's been seen as a freak by everyone except for Delia and maybe even now the his friends at the police department. But um, that was extremely helpful. I mean, it's always I think every author always has that one person that sort of understands their writing and their life, uh, and yeah, Kurt is a character I'm extremely proud of. I'm excited to write more books about him. I don't know how many books there will be in the Famlock series. I've got all sorts of different ideas for future books. I've already written the first two chapters of the next one, which I have no clue when that's going to come out. I'm going to spend a lot of time on it because the idea is really it's kind of bold. It's so different. It's not straightforward, just horror. It's like Phantom of the Lost has a lot of. I don't want to say it's super violent, but there's a lot of heavy stuff in it, and the next one, which I'm kind of working with the title, but right now it's called Phantom Walk, Phantom Fall. It's going to be more psychological. It's going to Kurt's obstacle is going to be more mental rather than physical. Uh, but but yeah, whenever you have a really great character, it's important to kind of get to know them. It's what helped me drive out Kurt was kind of write a bunch of short stories about him. And if you're wanting to kind of get into him before Phantom Walk the Lost comes out, you can always get my book Revolving Doors, which has a short story about him. One of the 10 or so short stories I wrote about him is in there. I don't know what I'm going to do with the other ones. Some of them aren't very good in my opinion. They're kind of half of them are kind of out there because I just wanted to put him in different situations to see what he would react to. Like there's one that's a lot like Where the Wild Things Are, and that one was really really strange. I don't know if I want anybody else to read it. I don't know. I think it was pretty bad. I didn't like it. And then there was another one that had to do with UFOs, and that one was almost as weird. Uh, but then there are the other ones that are kind of like that kind of feel like an episode of Millennium or with a more supernatural twist. So I might make something out of those someday. Who knows? I mean, I'll probably write in the next 40 or 50 years. So who knows what the hell is gonna happen. Anyway, thanks for listening. Please follow me on Twitter. Subscribe to my channel. You can also find me on Facebook. Check out my author page. Happy reading.